Recently, the European Space Agency launched a new spacecraft to Mercury, known as BepiColumbo. This spacecraft had an almost connection with another spacecraft that has received a lot of attention, and I wanted to talk about that link here today. That spacecraft is the Cassini spacecraft. Now, at first glance, these seemed totally different. Both of them orbited a planet that had not had a lot of attention prior. That's really the only seeming connection. Cassini orbited Saturn, flying by many of its moons very close, and provided us many years of deep, detailed information around the ringed planet, while BepiColumbo is headed to Mercury. They both flew by, or will fly by, Venus, but that seems like the limit of their connections. But there was almost a connection here. See, Cassini arrived at Saturn in 2004. In 2005 through 2007, they were starting to discuss what the long-term plan would be for Cassini. There were many ideas tossed about. There were running Cassini into a moon to make sure that it wouldn't contaminate one of the potential habitable planets. There was running it into Saturn, as we know actually did happen. There was having it be in a heliocentric orbit, where it wouldn't pass near any planets. There was even possibly a visit to another one of the gas giants, perhaps Jupiter, Uranus, or Neptune. Among all of these, though, is one very particular form that really caught my attention. See, Cassini was capable of flying by any planet, because if you can fly by Jupiter, you can get anywhere in the solar system, due to its large mass if you can get close enough. Now, it could have flown to Uranus or Neptune, but those ones are so far out there and they would take an enormous amount of time for it to get there. But flying by Jupiter, it could fly around anything else. Now, it had already flown by Jupiter, and Jupiter has had a fair amount of attention. But in flying there, it could also fly to one of the inner planets. Now, Mars has been very heavily studied. There's no reason to go there. Earth is even more heavily studied because, well, we live here. Venus takes a special spacecraft to really understand it. You have to have a spacecraft that's capable of imaging through the haze, either through radar or something else, and it didn't make a lot of sense. But Mercury had not, at that time, really been studied. It had had one spacecraft that had flown by it 3 times and had only seen a small fraction of the surface of the planet up close. Now, we've had the Messenger spacecraft that has since orbited, and now we have BepiColumbo. Now, here's where the connection comes in. If Cassini did, in fact, leave Saturn and head towards Jupiter and fly by from there to Mercury, it could have been timed to crash land into Mercury at the same time that BepiColumbo was approaching the planet. See, BepiColumbo's been studying for a number of years. And if that had happened, then we could have perhaps gotten a better understanding of what the surface of Mercury is like. How likely was this plan to happen? Quite frankly, there wasn't a chance. When I heard about this, I was actually sitting next to a student who was a student scientist working with the Cassini program. And I told him about this, and he already stopped me when I said leaving the orbit of Saturn. He's like, that's never going to happen. And it was fairly well assumed that it would end up entering the atmosphere of Saturn and being destroyed there, like it ended up doing. When I got to the part about it landing on Mercury, though, he just was like, that's hysterical, because it could have been done, but Cassini wasn't really designed for that purpose. But still, Cassini and BepiColumbo almost had this unique history together. Thanks for joining me. Let me know whatever questions or comments you guys have, and until next time, keep on tracking. Take care.